The purpose of this brief demonstration is to introduce you to Raven for Office. Raven Office is a very unique technology designed in particular to be used during requirement solicitation and definitions to help you ensure your requirements are complete and logically correct. If you struggled in the past with getting the requirements completed during elicitation, Raven for Office is designed to help you through that process. Raven Office is actually is implemented as part of the Word product, so your users who are familiar with and used to using Word can simply open up a Word document and begin building their template, their standard requirement template, just as they do today. And that's what I've done here. So you can scroll through this document and see that I have a kind of a header page, and I have a very simple outline with some information underneath here. What we're going to do is build some of this information, in particular the sections around activity diagrams, test scenarios, and narratives. So let's just continue to scroll through here and get down to some of those sections. You see it's just a simple Word document. So the first thing I'm going to do is go up here and select the Raven tab. And that's going to give me a lot of menu options across this ribbon right here. So one of the things I might want to do is manage a glossary. I can create and manage glossaries and attach those glossaries to my document, which allows me to reuse terms over and over again and ensure that they're spelled correctly, that I'm using the same terms. If I open up the Glossary Manager, you'll see what that glossary looks like. But most of the time, we recommend that you go into your glossary, define your actors and objects that you're going to use, and you want to make sure are consistent across the organization. And then you can simply pull up this glossary. You can add terms, delete terms, remove terms. And as I begin typing my narrative over here, these items that I've entered here will pop up in a list, so I don't have to try and figure out what that user or object name is every time I use it. So that's the glossary function. If you have existing glossaries in Excel, you can import them, and you can export this glossary to Excel as well. So let's get into the meat of Raven, which is modeling these processes. So I'm going to open up this process pane by selecting this button right here. You'll notice I already have a narrative inside of here. Not real complex, but it's got some complexity to it. You can kind of scroll through it there and read that narrative. You'll notice there's certain things about every sentence that I've specified: an actor, a function, an object. That's what Raven requires you to do. And then once I want to take a look at my narrative, I can analyze my narrative, which is going to give me some information about this particular flow. And once it's finished, you'll notice that this becomes active. So let's look at our errors and warnings. So here are my errors. So I have non-glossary actors. These are actors Raven found that are not in my business glossary. Here's an incomplete conditional. And here's something called, down here at the bottom, a missing object. So these are the logic flows that we want to take a look at. And we might want to go back and look at those actors and figure out what those should be. So if I click on this error message right here, missing object, it highlights the sentence associated with that error. Now I know that notified loan applicant is missing an object. So I'm going to correct this right here by saying the loan officer sends, actually let's say mails, a loan decision letter to the applicant. And then we're going to analyze these results and let Raven go off and do its thing, and hopefully that missing object problem is going to go away. It did. So now let's look at the other one, which was the incomplete conditional. So these are the kinds of things Raven finds. I've got an if-then with no else. And again, I know where that goes, so I'm just going to fix this right here by simply adding in my else or my otherwise condition. And we'll analyze that. And when I go through here, most of my what I would consider to be fatal errors have gone away. And again, as I said, you might want to go back and look at these non-glossary actors. But today we'll just assume that that's okay. So that's my errors and warnings that will help me very quickly go through and figure out what I have incorrect in my narrative. Warnings are things like, for example, similar terms. I've got a lot of terms in here around loan application or loan applicant. I might want to go look at those and maybe make them more unique. My conditional is not correct, it says, so I would want to go look at that. once I feel like I have this narrative pretty well defined, I can then go up and say, well, let's take a look at the diagram. Let's preview this diagram and see what it looks like. So I'm going to let it pull up this diagram. And here it is. So this is actually the diagram that Ravenflow created from that text with no user input at all other than the narrative itself. I can scroll through here and look at this logic. I can walk through it with my users. I might even say, you know what, I really don't like the way that line is. I can actually go in and move that line down if I want to make it look a little better. And I can also flip this diagram. Let's say I really would like to see it in horizontal mode. I can flip it and look at it in horizontal mode. And now I see what it looks like in horizontal. Let's say this is what I like. This is the way I like this. And I want to keep it in the horizontal mode. So let's just close this preview. Let's close these errors and warnings. And let's go into this loan application process. And now let's simply go in and say, let's insert that narrative right here into my document. Here we go. And then let's insert that activity diagram right here as well. Whoops, wrong insert. Insert process diagram. And so I'm building my narratives and my models all at one time. When I'm completed with that, I can just put them into my diagram, and I see this did revert back to a different orientation. One of the things I can do here is set that orientation to either horizontal or vertical, and that will be the default for everything. So I'm building that. Now, the other kinds of information, let's say I would like to have my test scenarios in here as well. So I can simply go to Insert a Table, and here's the things I can look at: terms, functions, steps, scenarios, and sentences. So let's just insert the scenarios right inside of here. And what I get here is a list of all the paths through this particular narrative. Here's the first, second, third, and fourth. So I have 4 paths through this use case, and the steps are laid out right here in a nice table format. If I would like to put my glossary in, I can do that as well. So let's go back up here. Here's my placeholder for glossary. So I simply go to Insert Table, and it's going to insert all my terms that I've used in that particular project, this document, if you will, and it's going to insert that table in here for me. So very, very quickly, I can build a lot of information. I don't have to manually go build it. Raven takes care of a lot of that for me. I can save this process by itself, or I can save it in Raven Cloud. If you're familiar with Raven Cloud, that's our cloud product. I can save it right out there at cloud. I can also open processes from Raven Cloud and pull them right into my document as well. So a very tight integration between Raven Office and Raven Cloud. So this gives you an overview of what Raven Office can do. I hope it has piqued your interest and you would like to see more. And if so, please get in touch with us to see more about Raven Cloud. Thank you very much.